Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's your boy, Delightful Kissboy, and today I'm going to be talking about music, one of my favorite things, just in general. It's a beautiful Sunday afternoon. I've got some coffee with me. I got my cat, Gus, sitting on his captain's chair next to me, and I'm feeling good. And so I just want to talk about something I enjoy quite a bit. Now, I don't really have like a set out plan for what I'm going to talk about, so this could just be aimless ramblings, but we're going to try to make this semi-coherent because, I don't know, I just felt like talking about it. Why not? But in any case, yeah, let me just start off by talking about my history with, like, music or whatever. I mean, everybody fucking listens to music. It's not really going to be that crazy, but I played a few musical instruments in my life. I don't really play anything anymore, although I don't know, maybe at some point I'll try to pick up some sort of an instrument just as a hobby. I don't know, we'll see, but I'm kind of busy right now, and I'm enjoying doing the YouTubing as a hobby. It's been a good time, but who knows, I'm never gonna close the door on that sort of thing. But I played 3 instruments, one more than the others. And the first one was piano. I took piano lessons when I was like a little kid, and I didn't really stick with it. I didn't like practicing. Like, I enjoyed going to the lesson and learning things at the lesson and, playing along with the teacher and things like that. That was a good time. But ultimately I didn't stick with it because, I don't know, I wasn't that great at it, and like, I didn't like practicing, and I was young, and so didn't stick. Stopped doing it at some point. But then I got to 5th grade. In 5th grade, I picked up the trumpet, and the reason I picked trumpet was just because they kind of had us all come in. Anybody who was interested in band, and my sister had done band. She played clarinet, but they brought all the kids in who were interested in band, and they let us try out different instruments. And I was no good with the woodwinds, right? So for those who don't play instruments, woodwinds, they'll have like a reed, or, with flute, you have to do a very specific blowing thing. I don't know. I don't understand flute. I'm not a flautist. And part of the reason I'm not is because I couldn't fucking do it, and it was really hard for me. And like with reeds, you have to kind of like put your lip on them and vibrate your lip in a specific way. And, I obviously, if I'd stuck with it, I could probably learn how to do that shit, but right off the bat, I learned how to do the brass sort of play style, where you kind of just put your lips together and you do a little raspberry. You go, that sort of a thing. That's what you do with brass instruments. And I was like, okay, I can do that. And so I chose trumpet. And I stuck with that all the way through middle school. When I got to high school, my school didn't have a band, so it's like if you wanted to do band through the school, you had to like take a bus in the morning to some other school and do jazz band there, but I didn't want to do that. But what I did do instead was I joined a band. All right, so some of my friends who I'd known from like middle school, they had been in a band, and they were kind of just doing not generic, they did some weird stuff, but they were doing like rock, kind of like ska inspired stuff. I don't exactly know what the genre was before I joined the band. By the time I joined the band, we were full on leaning into the ska. Alright, so we were a cheesy, bad ska band, and I played trumpet in that ska band. I was the little trumpet boy. And that was a good time. Like I said, we weren't any good. But we played a lot of shows. When I was in the band, I probably played like over 100 shows. We played a lot at like local venues. We'd open for different bands. And the main reason that we were able to do that wasn't because of merit necessarily. It's that our guitarist was good at like networking. So he could talk to the show bookers and get us put on to different shows. And they were like pretty popular. Went to different schools. They were pretty popular at their school, and so they were able to like get a good number of people to come out for these shows from school and just watch us, So basically we could sell like some amount of tickets. Like usually if you have like a local opener, like nobody's going, unless they're like kind of a bigger local band. But we were able to, you know, bring not that many. I mean, I don't know, like 30 to 40-ish people on average, maybe. Not even on average. Sometimes it was a lot less than that. I can't remember. It's been a long time. But we do that. We played some bar shows for a while. There was this woman who approached us and was kind of trying to act as our manager, which was weird. You know, but it was interesting that the bar shows paid a lot better. Anyway, I don't want to make this whole thing about the band I was in. We went on like a tour or two. Maybe I'll do a future video where I talk a little bit more about being in a band, because that was odd. I mean, it was fun. It was a good time, but it also had some drama and some weirdness going on, and I don't know. It was interesting. But it was never like my priority. Like, my priority was school. But I know that I think for at least a period of time, the guitarist in our band was trying to make it like a thing. You know, it's like, oh, maybe we could get big, you know, because we'd opened for some relatively known bands. Like, we opened for the Dead Kennedys and like Rehab, which they're shitty. Like, they're shitty. The Dirty Head. No, yeah, we did open for the Dirty Heads, didn't we? Yeah, that was kind of wild. Not that they're that great, but they were pretty big at the time. And just some other bands. I don't know. It was cool. It was a cool time, cool experience. But I didn't stick with it. By the time I got to college, it was just too much time. I didn't have a car, and I was like up north, and I'd have to like bus down. And like when we were in high school, we would just kind of like meet up and practice for like a half hour and then kind of just goof off. But like it would take me like an hour to bus down. And it was just annoying as shit. So I was like, nah, fuck this. I'm not doing this anymore. It's kind of a mutual leaving sort of a thing. Like, I kind of just started, like, not replying to texts about practicing. And then they just kind of kicked me out because I stopped showing up. So, you know, quiet quitting, band edition. But there we go. So, played trumpet. I tried to play guitar for a bit, too. I was dabbling in that. Didn't really go anywhere. I still have my guitar, and it'd be kind of cool to go back and try to learn how to play that a little bit better. But yeah, I just didn't stick with it long enough. I think that was around the time that I was going to be joining the other band anyway. So it's like, why would I keep learning guitar when I can just focus on trumpet for this band that I'm in? So anyway, that's all I've done. I haven't played anything really since like college. So it's been years. So that's my kind of my playing experience. But I just want to talk. I wanted to talk more about. I took a little bit of time to talk about that, but I want to talk more about just kind of my music taste, what I enjoy listening to, how that's evolved over time, etc., etc. Because that's really more of how I engage with music now, and that's what's more interesting to me is just finding bands I like, finding artists I like, and just I get really into them, and it's a lot of fun, right? So. When I was like a kid in like elementary school, basically all I would listen to was like what my mom would play on the radio for the most part, or whatever, you know. She had a bunch of CDs and shit, and so I just kind of listened to whatever that was, and that most of the time that was like 80s pop. I listened to a lot of the Police, which I still like the Police. They're good. You know, kind of reggae rock sort of a thing. So I liked them, and she listened to a lot of like new wave stuff, like Duran Duran and things like that, and I liked it all right, you know, but I kind of like never really got that into music because I hadn't really listened to anything outside of that sort of genre. And I liked it okay, but I didn't really like, I wasn't like, oh my god, this is awesome. You know what I mean? Like music can sometimes do. And so I just was kind of like, yeah, you know, I like music fine, but I'm not really that into it. But then, it's kind of funny, I got, when I was in like 6th grade, I want to say, like 6th or 7th grade, we got Guitar Hero, I think it's 3, Legends of the Rock, and that kind of opened me up to some more bands that I started to enjoy. So, played that one, and I remember that the songs that I specifically really liked, and don't judge me, okay, don't judge me, for the songs that I liked. Okay, I was young. This is like 7th grade. So the ones that I liked the best were Knights of Sidonia by Muse, which is an okay song. You know, it's fine. But at the time, I was like, oh, this is sick. Because I never really heard anything like that, you know? It was more like, you know, the kind of pop thing where it's like you got this kind of catchy hook or whatever. But I didn't really, like, listen to music that had, like, sick riffs up until that point, you know? It was kind of like catchy hook. And I mean, The Police could have some of that kind of stuff. Sorry, I bumped my mic there. But they could kind of have some of that sort of stuff, you know, every once in a while. But it was never anything like this, you know? Where you have cool riffs, cool guitar, cool instrumentation, that sort of thing. So it was Muse. I like that. I liked Metallica songs. Like, I think there was, like, one by Metallica. And I don't know, there might have been one other Metallica song on there, but I did like one quite a bit. And then, of course, I liked Through the Fire and Flames, which now I think is kind of a dog shit song. I'm not gonna lie. I don't like that song. It's very technically impressive, but I hate cheesy power metal now. Anyway, at the time, though, I thought it was cool. I was like, oh, hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah, this is sick. But it kind of got me looking into more... So I got really into Metallica for the most part after I played Guitar Hero. And I was listening to all their stuff. And I still like Metallica to this day, but I was very much into them at that time. And so I was getting more into kind of like metal. I remember my dad told me about the band Tool, okay? So I said I mostly listened to the music that my mom listened to. My dad would pretty much just listen to, by this point in his life, like weird ambient music. Like, or just sounds, alright? He wasn't very much into, like, music. He's an odd dude. But, you know, I'm not going to talk too much about him. But he listened to his own thing. But he told me about Tool, because he used to like Tool and Skinny Puppy back in the day, is what he told me. And so I checked out Tool. I didn't really get into Skinny Puppy, but I loved Tool. Tool, like, became my favorite band in, like, from between, like, 7th to like, 9th or 10th grade. I was just like, Tool is the greatest band ever. Which, you know, they've still got some cool songs or whatever, but, like, my God, you know, Tool fans, they're annoying, all right? And I was just like that, all right? I was drinking the Kool-Aid. I was like, oh my God, the Fibonacci sequence, bro. Oh my God, this is so cool. And I saw them live, and I was just like super into them. I had all of their albums, and I would like listen to them all the time. And during that time, I was just kind of branching out into more like prog rock, prog metal, and then heavier metal, like heavier and heavier metal. So I'm like, I don't remember the exact timeline of this, but I basically had like an, you know, so like a lot of the kids at the time in middle school were like getting into like nu metal and stuff like that. And so I liked some of that, you know. I liked System of a Down a lot. I still like System of a Down pretty well, but you know, I kind of got into some of those other groups. Like I liked Disturbed for a bit, which is an embarrassing period of time. Holy shit! But I don't like Disturbed anymore. Don't worry about it. But you know, that was kind of like I just kind of got super into music at the time, and I just was listening to as much metal as I could. And so basically from like middle school to the end of high school, pretty much the only thing I listened to was like metal. And it just got progressively more extreme as I was listening to more and more of it. So it started off with like Tool, System of a Down, you know, like Metallica, that sort of a thing. I got really into Dream Theater, which is also embarrassing, which is just like cheesy ass prog metal, like Rush type shit, but it's metal, and man, they have some dog shit, let me tell you. I mean, like, once again, a lot of these bands, it's like technically impressive, but like, my God, dude, I don't know. I'm not into it anymore at all. But I also got into like some bands I still listen to today, like Gojira. I like a good amount of Gojira songs, and I was listening. They were like one of my favorite bands back in middle school. And so I was really into like From Mars to Sirius is one of their albums that I liked quite a bit. And I was also really into Meshuggah, and I saw Meshuggah live, and I was always stoked on them. You know, super heavy, kind of like gent, I guess is the genre that they're considered. But, you know, so I was kind of doing that sort of a thing. But I wasn't, I kind of got really excited about music, you know, after I played Guitar Hero, and I was like, okay, this is the kind of music I want to listen to. Really heavy stuff, really like in your face, riff oriented music. I'm like, this is all I want to listen to, right? And so I didn't really branch out much, but I was using Last FM as a tool to find more and more similar bands. So it's kind of like, okay, I'm branching out within metal. So I started listening to a lot of sludge metal. I got really into Neurosis, which is also a very good band. And I was getting into like hardcore, like Converge is still one of my favorite bands. So that kind of stuff. What I would do at the time, by the way, is a lot of people would use LimeWire to get their music, because there weren't streaming services back then. But what I would do is I would go to the library, and the library had like most of the shit that I wanted. And there was actually a process, if they didn't have something that you wanted, where you could request it. And I think a lot of the times they would just get it. But most of the time they just had the CDs I wanted. So I would just like go to the library, check them out. I mean, you could put them on hold and then go pick them up. And then I would rip the music off of the CDs, which you're not supposed to do. I mean, you can do that, but then you're technically supposed to like delete the files when you return the media to the library, but nobody fucking did that, and nobody cared. And my parents didn't care. They're like, yeah, just do whatever. Just don't download illegally off the internet. Because, you know, nobody's going to be able to trace this back. Like, they're not going to know if you got it from, like, your friend or whatever, right? And so I would just check out all these metal CDs from the library and add them to my iTunes library. I had an iPod Nano at the time, man. Good times, good times. And I would just listen to that shit all the time. But yeah, some of the notable bands from the time: Neurosis, Converge, Meshuggah, Gojira. I liked a lot of, okay, well, unfortunately named ISIS, which they named themselves that before the, you know, Islamic State, alright? But they were a good band. They were kind of sludge metal, post-metal. I was really into post-metal for a bit. I listened to, like, Cult of Luna was one that I'd like some of their shit a lot. I'm trying to remember what the band was that had, they had this album that had, like, Hate and Heartbreak on it. Oh, it was like, something of the Mouth of the Architect or some shit. They'd always have these pretentious-ass names. But I still dig them. I liked Pelican a lot. They were kind of instrumental, post-metal, that sort of thing. So I was really into that sort of shit. It was like, I kind of was like going from prog metal to extreme death metal, you know, heavy metal shit, you know. Not heavy metal, but like death metal stuff. And then I slid into like sludge and post-metal towards the end of like high school, and that was what I was really into by that point in time. And I found all this stuff. I really liked that like slow, heavy, atmospheric kind of a thing that just, I don't know, put me in an interesting mood. And I still like going back and listening to that kind of stuff today, because it's got an interesting vibe to it. It's very like melancholy, like a cloudy day sort of a music, you know? But what kind of happened at that point is like, up until that point, I was mostly like, oh, this is a sick riff, or like, you know, this part's really catchy or whatever. But that sort of music kind of introduced me into the concept of like establishing a vibe. And many of these songs still had catchy riffs kind of thrown in there, you know? But it was more just like, what's the feeling of this song, and how is this song making me feel, you know? And I was kind of enjoying songs for that sort of a merit. So it's like, it's kind of interesting. It's like over time I was kind of learning how to appreciate different kinds of music. But up until that point, it had all been through the lens of metal, right? So, you know, it's whatever. But the whole time, too, I was just using Last FM to basically recommend me new shit. Or I'd just, like, my friends would maybe tell me about certain bands, and I'd maybe check them out. But most of my friends weren't into the same kind of music that I was at the time. Except for, like, a few. But sometimes we'd still... I was very picky about metal back then, and there were, like, a lot of bands that I just didn't like at all. I was kind of a pretentious douchebag about it, but that should have been an indication that maybe it was time to branch out outside of metal. And I eventually did that, because when I was in the band, like, my bandmates would put on some music, and I started to like things like the Wu-Tang Clan. Like, they'd put on the music in the car, and I'm like, oh, this is pretty good, actually, but I never really considered listening to it. You know, they'd put on other stuff, too, you know, punk and ska and shit like that. I kind of gaslit myself into thinking that I liked ska music, which there's still some bangers, like Streetlight Manifesto I can get down with for a while, but, like, overall, I'm not super into it. You know, I still like a lot of punk music. That has stuck around with me, and I got that from being in the band and being exposed to all these different types of music. But it wasn't until college that I started to really branch out. So, first year of college, I was still mostly just listening to metal, I would say. But I would think some of my favorites at that time were like Baroness and I don't know, the Dillinger. I listened to a lot of the Dillinger Escape Plan. I remember first year of college. I remember I was working at a library, and I would just be like going around and putting away books, listening to the Dillinger Escape Plan, which is like math metal weird shit. But at that time too, I started using Pandora, and Pandora was showing me some more stuff, and it would throw in some weird stuff every once in a while. Like that's where I first heard Shoo Shoo, which is now one of my favorite groups, and they're really bizarre. I don't really know what sort of shit that I put into my Pandora station that made it show me Shoo Shoo, but I'm forever grateful, because my God, I love that band. But so I was starting to like be like, oh man, there's some kind of cool stuff. And when I got to like sophomore year, I became roommates with like 14 other people, one of whom was very into music as well, but he would listen to all this different stuff than me. And he was really excited about the new Kendrick Lamar album that was coming out at the time, which is To Pimp a Butterfly, right? And I hadn't heard of Kendrick Lamar at all before, because like I said, I was kind of closed off in my own little metal bubble, right? And I didn't even really know what the pop music was at the time. I would just listen to metal that I'd find on the internet, you know, that sort of a thing. So I had no idea who Kendrick Lamar was, but he put it on, and I was listening to him like, oh my God, dude, this is great. Like, what the hell? This is like, it was so different from what I'd been listening to. Because if you haven't listened to Pimp a Butterfly, it's like a very jazzy, jazz-inspired, like, just a lot of cool production going on. And I mean, Kendrick's delivery is amazing as well. Incredible album, one of my favorites of all time. And I was blown away by it. I'm like, oh my God, like, I hadn't really given rap a chance at all. I mean, I was a white dude growing up, you know, that's problematic in its own right, but, you know, of why I wouldn't give it a chance, you know, but I just hadn't really thought about it up until that point. I wasn't exposed to it growing up. But I checked that album out, I was like, oh my God, dude, this is great. This is incredible. Like, I fell in love with it, and then all of a sudden I started, like, listening to all these other albums that I could find that were kind of similar at the time. So a lot of rap, a lot of things like that. And I was getting really into it. And then I like found the Needle Drop at that time. So Anthony Fantano, because that roommate also listened to a lot of Fantano reviews. And so I was basically with Anthony Fantano. All right, this is how it goes with me. Okay, because a lot of people disagree with some of his takes. The way that I look at it is like, I've found a lot of great music from his recommendations. And it's a lot of like weird stuff, a lot of interesting stuff that like I wouldn't necessarily listen to, that's very high quality. And I'm like, oh wow, this is really cool. This is really interesting. So I appreciate that aspect of his reviews, but at the same time, a lot of times I'll find myself disagreeing with the things he negatively reviews. So the way I use Fantano's reviews is to discover new things that I'll like, not to, you know, get an opinion on things that I already like, right? So, like, for example, okay, Kanye alert. Obviously, there are things going on with Kanye now that make it difficult to be a fan of his music, and it's unfortunate that I am a fan of his music, all right? But My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, I think, is a great album Absolutely love it by Kanye West. And Fantano reviewed it pretty mediocre. He said it was pretty mediocre or like not that great. I completely disagree, and I found myself disagreeing about that sort of a thing with him. So it's like, I'll go to his recommendations and look at that. I don't look at his bad reviews, because like some of the shit that I like a lot, he's been like, oh, this is dog shit. Like, there's a band now, they used to be called Girl Band, they're now Gila Band, which is like an Irish post-rock band that does some interesting stuff. Has like, I don't know, their songs are great, in my opinion. I love them a lot. Fantano doesn't really like them at all, but I'm like, no, they're doing some cool shit, man. Doing some cool shit. So that's kind of my perspective on it. But in any case, I was getting a lot of recommendations through him now, and like, so I'd look for when he's wearing a yellow flannel, and I'd watch those reviews, and I'd go to his loved lists and pick out albums from that, and look at his classic reviews too. And so about that time, I got really into Godspeed You, Black Emperor, which is weird name for a band, but they're kind of an older Canadian post-rock band that is awesome, in my opinion. I know that there's kind of a stigma about it, like, I don't know, like the same thing with like Swans. Like, I really like Swans. There's kind of a stigma about some of these bands that they're like pretentious, hipstery bands, but like, look, at the end of the day, I just like what I like, I'm not overthinking it anymore. It's just, if I like something, I like something. If I don't like something, I don't like something. I'm not trying to be like, cool or whatever the fuck. I'm just like, oh, this is really sick. So I like Godspeed You, Black Emperor quite a bit. They're one of my favorite bands. They have been for a long time. Just because, remember how I mentioned earlier, I was kind of getting more into that atmospheric sort of music, That's all that Godspeed You, Black Emperor is. It's all like really long songs, crescendos, build up, and then like, these devastating, really sad moments. It's like an emotional roller coaster, and it's all a vibe, And it's this amazing vibe that I love. And so like, Lift Your Skinny Fists Like Antennas to Heaven is a great, great album, one of my favorites. And I was just like listening to shit all the time. One of my favorite things, well, I wouldn't say my favorite things to do, but I look at this fondly. It's definitely not one of my favorite things to do, because I was having to study, and I wasn't a huge fan of studying. But the way I liked to study in college was I would go to the computer labs, because I was in the computer science department, and I would stay up like super late until like 4 a.m. just in the computer labs, and there'd be like nobody else there. I was out of my house that had like, at any time between like, 10 to 14 people in it. It was just loud all the time. I'd be popping in my headphones, listening to Godspeed You, Black Emperor, and just coding or studying in the computer labs. And then it was just like this vibe. It's super peaceful. There's nobody else around. I'm just like, I don't know. I was a night owl in college, and I just loved the peace of it. And then I'd walk home at like 4 a.m. and there's nobody out on the streets, except for a few people, and it's just like, it's just a vibe, So they've been one of my most beloved bands because of those kinds of experiences, and I don't know, their music's great. If you haven't checked them out, go ahead and check them out. I'd recommend Lift Your Skinny Fists as your starting album. Very good stuff. And so, at this point in time, I kind of stopped listening to only one genre. The other thing, too, is like some of my closest friends, the main music that they listen to is like country music, all right? And I'm not the biggest fan of country music for the most part, but I would go to a lot of country shows just because they wanted to go to these shows, and I'd have a fun time hanging out, that sort of a thing. I don't know. It's just, I think it was always good to push myself out of my musical comfort zone, and give things a chance. And I was way more open to that when I got to college, because of all of these times that I'm like, oh my God, like I would have never listened to this before, but now I am, and it's amazing. And so I've always been like, just kind of like a lot more open about music since then, and I'm not looking for particular genres or whatever. I'm just trying to look for like good music, you know? While there's still a few genres like, you know, fucking country music that are harder for me to get into, there's still a good number of country songs I enjoy, you know? Same thing with pop. Like, I would always look down my nose on pop because I was one of those kind of like elitist metalheads back in like high school and shit, dude. But like, I can get down with some fucking pop music. I am not gonna lie. Now, like Dua Lipa, bro. Hell yeah, brother. And I liked Brat. Okay, I'm just gonna come out and say it. I liked Brat quite a bit. You know, Charlie XCX. She's done some cool stuff. Like, there's a producer who passed away. Unfortunately, it was very sad. But her name was Sophie. And she would do this batshit fucking production that was just awesome. I loved how it sounded. And she, like, produced for a few of Charlie XCX's previous tracks. Like, there's one called, like, Vroom that's, I thought was awesome. I love that song. And so I've been a Charlie XCX fan for a bit, actually. And even though it's just because it's pop doesn't mean it's shit, you know? There's all... Just listen to music and don't like have a preconceived notion of what's good and what's bad based on just like genre, you know? Now it's kind of like most music I listen to it and I'm just kind of indifferent to it, you know? So there's plenty of music, like one of the things I was trying to do for a bit was just listen to the most popular music on Spotify. And I've got to tell you, I listened to Ed Sheeran because I'm pretty sure, like, he's one of the top artists besides, like, I don't know, like Taylor Swift or some shit. And, like, that was, like, the music equivalent of water. Where it's just it's just the most bland shit imaginable. To me. If you like Ed Sheeran, I'm sorry. But I was listening to it and I was just like, I mean, I'm not trying to be pretentious, right? But, like, I'd listened to the whole album, and I hadn't even realized that anything had happened. It's just like, it's perfect background music. Like, you won't even realize you've been listening to music the entire time. There's just, like, nothing happening. I don't know, that was my impression of Ed Sheeran, but it wasn't bad. It was just like, there's nothing noteworthy about this to me, you know? And so, there's a lot of music that I'm kind of like that about, where I'm just like, I don't really see a reason to listen to this, you know, because like it's fine and I'm not having a bad time, but I'm also just like, I don't really see, it's not very exciting, it's not very interesting, you know. But there's plenty of pop music that I find very interesting and very cool and very, you know, whatever. Oh my god, Gus, just a sec, let me go get Gus. Alright, I've got Gus here. He just gets confused and starts screaming sometimes when he doesn't know where I am. But it's funny, like, I'll be in the room. Like, I'll be sitting in my room, he'll be in the room, he'll leave, and then he'll go to a different room to look for me. And I'm like, dude, just go back to where you just were. And then he'll just, like, yell until I come and find him. Or he'll give up at some point. But here he is. I don't know if you can hear him purring. Hello, Gus. He's an old man. He's a senile old man. What can you do? Anyway, what was I talking about? I was just, you know, yapping per usual. Let's see here. What was I talking about? Something about music. Oh, yeah, just like pop music or whatever. But, yeah, I don't know. I just listen to kind of whatever now. I'd say the genres, like, I don't really keep track of which genres that I'm most interested in anymore. But, I find myself coming back to rap quite a bit. Lots of rap music that I'm into. A good amount of more like ambient kind of electronic stuff like Aphex Twin and Boards of Canada and that sort of stuff. I mean, Aphex Twin has a variety of electronic music. I like his more vibey stuff quite a bit, you know? But that's definitely like Boards of Canada for me. Like, Boards of Canada just has like... It's got a great vibe to it, alright? If you listen to Turquoise Hexagon Sun by Boards of Canada, Hoochie Mama. That's a good one, Just driving around, just thinking, you know, that's some good thinking music right there. That's the other thing, is I listen to a lot of, like, music that I can concentrate well with, you know? Like, stuff that lets me code focus on coding better, that sort of a thing. And so a lot of times that's going to be like instrumental, electronic music, that sort of a thing. So, yeah, I'll list off some artists that I listen to a lot now that I always find myself coming back to. That would be Shoo Shoo, JPEG Mafia. Listened to a lot of JPEG Mafia. Saw him live a few years ago, and he's great. Also, I had a big Death Grips phase back in back in college. Still love them, but I'm not like as I used to just listen to like all the time back then, and now it's like, oh, if they come up, I'm like, hell yeah, I'll get down with some Death Grips, baby. But it's not like a constant thing. You know what I mean? That sort of stuff. I mean, I listen to a lot of Kendrick Lamar. Unfortunately, I do listen to a lot of Kanye West still. I don't know what the fuck he's doing, but his music is good. I'm sorry. What can I do? Should I stop? Should I start? Let me know. Should I start boycotting Kanye? I don't know. I don't know if I could go the rest of my life without listening to Runaway again. Or, I don't know, some Yeezus songs. I don't know. I don't know if I could do it. But listen to a lot of that, unfortunately. I still listen to metal a good amount every once in a while, but it's usually more... I kind of just listen to the most extreme stuff now if I need to get my fix, and then I'm kind of off it for a bit. Like, Nails has always been one of my favorite bands. I listen to a lot of Converge still. Still one of my faves since high school. I remember I like had a bad breakup back in high school, and I was just listening to like Converge all the time to get all angry and stuff, They've got an album called Jane Doe that I think is about, I don't know, a less than amicable breakup. So it kind of fit. I showed my girlfriend at the time Converge, and she kind of pretended to like them because it was before like we'd started dating, but she wanted to like impress me by liking this band that I liked a lot, I don't think she actually enjoyed them. And so I was just like, she lied to me. She lied to me about liking Converge. And then she broke my heart. Oh my god, Everything's a lot more dramatic back then, obviously. But still like them a lot. They're still great. I've actually got a Converge tattoo. But a Jane Doe tattoo. Kind of a basic bitch tattoo. But what can you do? But, yeah, I'm trying to think of other bands I'm liking a lot. It's always hard, like, there are bands that I'm just listening to all the time, and it's hard for me to, like, pull them out of a bag and just list them off, you know what I mean? I always listen to, who is it? Chat Pile a lot. They're kind of a noisy post-metal band. I don't know, it's not post-metal, what is it? What would the genre even be? I don't know. Chat Pile's got some interesting stuff, but I always love their shit. Alright? It's great. I'd say it's like post-hardcore or something like that almost. But really cool vibe, really good stuff. Check out Chat Pile if you're interested in like noisy music. I like a lot of noisy, discordant music now too. So Chat Pile, I like... God, what's that? I can't remember the names of these groups, but I'm just like, oh man, these are sick. I don't know, I'll think about some of them. It's hard to just conjure these weird names out. Oh, Pharmacon has some interesting stuff. Good stuff to check out. But I mean, that's just straight up noise, dude. It's abrasive, so if you're looking for like a tune, Chat Pile's got a tune with their music and it's noisy. Pharmacon is straight up like industrial hell noises. So you've been warned, but I like it. It's pretty cool. Definitely worth checking out. I'm trying to think of other rap artists that I like a lot. I like a lot of Danny Brown. Danny Brown's great. I find myself listening to 21 Savage a lot. I don't know why. I just keep coming. Oh, Young Thug. Oh my god. Some of Young Thug stuff is actually great. Don't judge me. It's great. It's really good stuff. Some of it. I like some Playboi Carti. There's really no rhyme or reason to what I like to listen to anymore. And there's definitely some stuff on there that's like questionable, certified trash in certain situations. Oh, how could I forget? Show Me the Body. The reason I thought Show Me the Body is because they have a song called Trash, which is a banger. But they're a New York punk band that's always been one of my favorite bands. And they're always putting out cool shit. Definitely worth checking out. Yeah, so Show Me the Body is great. The Body is also great. It's a doom metal project that collaborates with a lot of cool artists too, like Uniform and Full of Hell. Oh yeah, Full of Hell is a great metal band as well. You can see I still have a soft spot for metal, even though I don't listen to it quite as much as I used to. But I know a lot of those bands. But it's more the extreme experimental kind of stuff that I'm more into now. I wouldn't go back and like listen to fucking Iron Maiden or whatever. It's just like, this shit is, it's like Iron Maiden's like the Ed Sheeran of metal to me. You know, that kind of shit. No, okay, that's not fair. Iron Maiden's a little more fun than fucking Ed Sheeran. But if I was thinking about like the Ed Sheeran of metal, it would be like Shinedown or some shit like that, dude. Like just some generic new metal band that everybody's forgotten about, like Stained or something. That's what I would put. Or Disturbed, dude. God, Disturbed is not a good band. Oh, wait, no. Godsmack. My God. Godsmack. Terrible music. That is not a band worth checking out. But I do like the band that they got their name from, which is Alice in Chains. Alice in Chains has got some good stuff. Like me some grunge. I liked Chris Cornell a lot when he was with, like, you know, Soundgarden and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's plenty of other artists I listen to. I'll link to a playlist that has, like, all of my music on Spotify in the description if you're interested. It's not going to be sorted or anything like that. It's just my entire library. But I'm kind of getting to the end of what I wanted to talk about. Just kind of going over the my experience with music, my taste evolution over time, that sort of a thing. If you have any recommendations, you know, leave them down in the comments. But I just wanted to yap about something I'm interested in on a Sunday afternoon and drink some coffee. And I've got my cat here with me. So thank you all for listening. I hope this was somewhat entertaining or somewhat interesting. I guess I kind of realized I love talking about music, but I generally like talking about music to somebody else. You know, just me conjuring bands that I like out of the ether is not super interesting. But yeah, so check the description if you would like to see my Spotify library. Let me know in the comments some of your favorite bands that I should check out and that sort of a thing. Love to chat about it. It's a good time always. So yeah, I'll talk to you guys later. I'm going to work on some more main channel stuff. I've got a fun idea that I'm working on right now that is going to be hopefully interesting and kind of fun, but it's taken me a long time. So anyway, bye-bye.